Because I'm paranoid.
Not me. Well, okay, and here we are, the premiere episode of the Two Crazy Guys. I'm Donald Lowry, a.k.a. Big D.
And I'm Mark Boyle, a.k.a. Prepper Guy.
Amen, brother. We'd like to give a big, warm welcome to all of you folks up there listening to us on AM 540 KYAH.
Yes.
Utah's Talk Authority. Thanks for tuning in.
It's God's country up there. It's beautiful up there. Cold.
Yeah.
Home at the TSA or?
Almost polar vortex area, huh?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And so then we also want to give a big shout out to John and all the guys over on Contra Radio as well.
Yes. All the hosts and all the shows out there.
Yeah, man.
Not just us, because we rock.
Good stuff over there. In fact, if you want to catch the podcast stream, just go over to podbean.com, or is it, it's ContraRadioNetwork.com / or how is that?
Just ContraRadioNetwork.com.
Okay, that'll work too.
And then just pick a show.
Yeah.
Or a page, and then they usually, all of them have the Podbean player.
Yeah.
So it's got the last 10 episodes in each one.
There you go.
So if you want to hear Prepping 2.0, they're all there.
Everybody's there.
The Mark Boyle Show, which is me, and now we're changing that to Two Crazy Guys, because I like having someone to talk to, man. I get lonely.
I do run the Conservative Underground. It's more of a political news-focused show where, Mark Boyle has that prepping. So we meet in the middle with the patriotic prepper.
Yeah, I like that. Because, I listen to a lot of prepping podcasts and political podcasts and even watching the news. And it's like, yeah, this is all really great and scary, but how does that affect my life?
Yeah.
And so I like to try to, dial it back and get everybody off the ledge and go, look, there's something you can do about this. There's nothing you can do about that.
Exactly.
Why don't you look at it this way? My idea of learning to prep is going camping. It doesn't get any better than that.
You got to be, look, here's the thing. All right, so I think we came up with the Two Crazy Guys because, I don't know, either we are crazy or we're not crazy and everybody else is. But we are just a couple of crazy guys that like to hang around, and I believe in being ready, because you never know. You just never know when something is going to happen.
And I know for a fact that I am crazy. It's clinical.
Well, I've been told I'm crazy now, so I guess that fits, right?
Well, and I think because of the way we look at things, it makes us seem crazy to people that are more, I guess, dogmatic in their beliefs. Because when I tell people there's nothing you can do about this, or America's reached this point of no return, they go, well, you're crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, no, those are facts on the ground.
Or when I tell people that if we don't be careful, we're going to end up like North Korea.
Yeah.
People think that I'm a nutbag because, look, man, you let your government start taking your rights away and watch how fast you get to North Korea, my friends.
Yeah, you lose it really fast, and it's not just a slow slide, because we've been in that for quite a while, actually. And so people are always saying, well, we're going toward a cliff. It's like, no, I think we've gone off the cliff like Thelma and Louise. We're just now pumping the brakes and nothing's going to happen.
Well, if we're not careful, we're going to end up with this Green New Deal, which you and I both know is not sustainable. It will collapse. And like you said, Mark, I don't know if that's if they don't realize that it's going to collapse, or if they do know that it's going to collapse and they are deliberately trying to push us into that collapse.
Well, I think we hate to think that way of our government, or not maybe the government as a whole, but a bunch of secret little combinations and meetings going on out there. And people used to say, well, they're so stupid in Washington. It's like, I don't think they're stupid.
Yeah.
I think they're making these moves to get us into a place of checkmate.
Well, people call Barack Obama stupid. And if you look at his end goal, the result that he wanted to achieve, he was a genius.
Yeah. And did it fit in with what an average American would like for our country? Even Democrats don't want to destroy the country.
Right.
But so you think, well, how stupid is he? No, he's playing a different game.
Right.
That's like saying that quarterback's so stupid. If he makes that pass, we're going to lose. It's like,
Right.
yeah, that's the whole point of the game.
That's right.
So you lose.
Right.
So they're not, I don't think they're that stupid. I think they're that conniving. And I hate to feel that way about the people we've elected, but look at the people we've elected.
Well,
Not just you and I,
I'll agree with you on that point, except when we look at AOC,
yeah,
Cortez.
they beamed her down from Mars.
Look, she is supposed to be educated. She is supposed to be, have masters or doctorates or whatever it is. She's supposed to be well educated.
I
And
need to buy me one of those because
man, I'll tell you what.
I don't think they earn them on merit.
I think that if you're going to run for office, that you should at least have a basic understanding of the general principles, the general fundamental principles of a constitutional republic, because that's what we are. We're not a democracy.
No.
And I think if you're going to run for office, then you should at least have a basic understanding of what form of government it is that you're going to try to legislate.
Yeah, you swear an oath to uphold this thing that you don't even understand or have never read. So what does that tell you about their values of swearing an oath to
Right.
something when they know they're not going to follow it?
Right, exactly.
And I don't think you have to have a Harvard degree to be a politician. I
No.
mean, you just, the founding fathers were, really smart. Most of them had college educations
Yeah.
that they had acquired at 16.
Yeah.
But you need to have a love for your country
Yeah.
and a basic understanding that 2 + 2 is 4 when it comes to math and so many things,
Right.
so,
Well, our founders were absolute geniuses.
yeah.
And there's people out there that'll argue with me. Maybe they were too genius. They were crazy.
Right. They were crazy, like two crazy guys we know. And now you know us. Well, that the Constitution was kind of like lightning in a bottle. But it really wasn't when you think about it, because it's been morphing into the U.S. Constitution for 700 years.
Yeah.
Because England had a lot of constitutions.
Yeah.
And then, yes, Magna Carta was one of them. But they would try to
Yeah.
continue to get representation and freedom, and they had the right to self-defense.
Sure.
And stuff. But then the kings would screw it up, and then they'd off with their head,
Yep.
and then they'd get a new one and write a new constitution. So the founding fathers finally took all of those and said, here's version 7.0.
This worked.
And,
This didn't
and we're
work.
giving you a representative republic,
Right.
which was really the tweak that it always needed.
Yeah.
And so they didn't, just make it out of whole cloth.
No, I don't agree that. I don't think they did that either. There was a lot of negotiating that went on. There was probably some fist fighting that went on. I don't know. I wasn't there, but from what we see,
Yeah.
and when we look at history, they weren't all in agreement with everything with one another at all times.
No, and I think that was the beauty of it. You watch the news and they're like, well, we need some harmony in Washington. It's like, no, there were massive debates.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it? Adams and Jefferson didn't speak for years
yeah,
because
exactly.
of things, disagreements on the way things should be done. And before the ink was even dry on the ratification, Hamilton was trying to screw everything all up with his
Yeah.
banking and
Yeah,
stuff and getting us
exactly.
into debt.
Uh-huh.
So they disagreed, but they were able to debate and work it out and then
Yeah.
have a vote. And sometimes your side didn't win.
Right.
It was like, oh well, that's how we do it here.
That's how we do it. And when Obama won, our side didn't win.
No.
You know,
And elections have consequences.
Trump won. Thank God Hillary didn't win.
And they probably feel the same way I did when Obama won.
Exactly.
It's like,
Yeah.
But
But there's a difference, because when Obama won, we were told to suck it up, buttercup. And how dare you say anything wrong about Barack Obama, because he was the savior. The reverse applies today, where every single day of our lives, it's an attack Trump fest.
right.
The same people that, told us suck it up because you didn't win, now have been in a hissy fit and a temper tantrum like screaming little babies for the last 3 years, going on 4 years now.
Well, you remember that thing with Obama and John McCain, who I was not a fan of John McCain.
Me either.
You know, he basically in that one meeting just said, hey, elections have consequences, and handed him his hat and showed him the door.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, what if Trump did that
Yeah, exactly.
to a Democrat? I don't care what color they are. Oh, it'd still be in the news.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
maybe
you know,
under, Russia.
So now I'm not a big fan of polls because you can make the polls say anything you want to say. But you know, we had the State of the Union address here not too long ago, which, by the way, I do believe it was probably the best State of the Union address
I do too.
in my lifetime.
Yeah, and if
Okay.
people listen to it without the filter of hate Trump,
Yeah.
he said really good things for
Yes,
America.
yes. And so shortly after that, you had your polls, you know, and what was it, like 74% of the people agreed with the president and how he was doing business. Well, you had another poll, like he's at like 52% overall
Approval
approval
rating
rating
now.
right now. And the Democrats are in a hissy fit because they can't figure out how day after day after day after day after day the mainstream media has been pushing hatred on this man. And they have done everything they can. Russian collusion, you know, prostitutes, anything and everything that they could come up with to throw at him. And he still has a 52% approval rating in his third year in presidency, and they can't figure out how he's doing it. And these are their polls.
Yeah, and what drives them crazy is, you know, he's basically like Superman, and they cannot find his kryptonite.
No.
And you know, and they've had good luck most of the time, you know, destroying and marginalizing most, you know, Republicans. But Trump just does not play by that game. He's like,
No.
you guys are out there on the field playing rugby, and I'm over here playing football.
Yeah.
And I'm
exactly.
not going to go on that court and
That's
play that
exactly
stupid
right.
game because I've got things to do
Yep.
besides bicker and backbite and whine.
And boy, isn't he doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I saw this story today. McCabe, there was a 25th Amendment. There were 25th Amendment discussions at the DOJ to remove Trump from office. So this plays in. Okay, look, they have tried to hand everything that they can at this man. In fact, I remember hearing, you know, trying to claim him as mentally incompetent, and you know, Russian collusion. Well, we now know that. What was it? Mueller's not going to release a report now.
Oh, of course not, because that'll keep him, you know, just spinning.
He's going to keep quiet, and
And who is he to not release the report? I mean, he works for us, right?
it's going to make him look like a fool, is what it's going to do.
It's like, you paid me to come into your house and do floor covering, but then I'm just not going to show up. But that's okay somehow in their world, because I would be in jail for fraud.
Well, you know,
But he's hired by us to do certain things, and a report would be nice at the end of it, or you get a D
Right.
or an F in the class.
right, yeah,
These people are blatantly
absolutely.
spitting on American people.
Well,
all of them.
So here you had this report, you know, this where it says the former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe says that after President Trump fired his boss, FBI Director James Comey, wheel count time,
Yeah.
there were discussions with the Department of Justice about invoking the 25th Amendment to remove Trump from office. Okay, the 25th Amendment basically says that if the president is not competent to do his job, the vice president can step up and say, hey, you know, we need to do something about this.
Right.
But in fact, I can actually pull up the 25th Amendment because I have it in my handy dandy Constitution.
Hey, did you notice that Democrat the other day that was ripping on the guy from the DOJ?
Yeah, that's this.
And the Democrats pulled out his pocket Constitution. He's like, does it say in here? And it's like, but every time a Republican did that in the past,
Yeah.
it was like, put that stupid thing away. It's
Yeah.
like, well, first of all, that's our Constitution. It's
Yeah.
not a stupid thing. But now they're trying to use that against us. I thought, that's kind of cute. You know,
Well, you know, all right, so basically,
he was wrong, but
there's in, you know, section 1, 2, 3, section 4. So section 3 says whenever the president transmit to the president pro tempore, in that case, in today's case, it would be, Grassley, is the pro tempore in the Senate, and of course, the Speaker of the House being Nancy Pelosi. So Trump would have to write a letter to them saying, I am not competent to perform my job. Well, we know that's not going to happen.
Right.
So now Section 4.
And that would normally have to do with health issues, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't be competent to write that or make that call if you're mentally incompetent.
Right. So, oh, by the way, and he did have his physical, and they said he's healthy as a horse. His cholesterol is a little high, you know.
That's
but
because he's listening to American doctors.
well, and he eats McDonald's too. But what's wrong with that? I do
like
too.
McDonald's.
But Section 4 is where we're looking at with this article. It says, whenever the vice president and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive departments of such other body as Congress may by law provide, transmit to the president pro tempore of the Senate that the Speaker and the Speaker of the House of Representation their written declaration that the president is unable to discharge powers and duties of his office. So in other words, VP Pence would have to write a letter to Grassley and to Pelosi, and of course, he'd have to have several cabinet members on board.
Right.
That ain't happening.
No.
So now this begs the other question. What exactly, I mean, it's not like I can come up and say, let's say I'm Mike Pence and you're Donald Trump. It's not like I can walk up to you and say, hey, dude, you're incompetent.
Right.
You have to have a medical evaluation done, I would assume.
Well, and if you think about the intent of that, law, or is it amendment? I just had a brain fart.
It is the 25th Amendment.
Okay, so the intent is back before we had the internet and high speed communications and all that. You might get word that Washington was killed out on the field of battle, mm-hmm. or he was wounded really bad, mm-hmm. and so then as vice president you'd go, hey, for now we think he's not going to be able to do what he's doing.
Right.
Let's keep the show on the road here.
Right.
But nowadays we don't need somebody else saying you're mentally incompetent.
Exactly.
It goes to impeachment then.
Right.
Or if something happened to Trump that no one knew about, then Pence would go, no, I've got it from a good source that his plane went down.
Exactly.
And
that's what they're talking about.
But it wasn't just to pull a rabbit out of your hat, just
exactly.
to make life just a pain in the ass.
Hey,
for
look,
Americans.
We're not going to get Russian collusion. We don't have the prostitution thing. We don't have any audio that, oh, by the way, they said they had audio of Trump saying the N word. Nobody has ever produced any such audio. So we don't have him on that. We can't prove that he's a racist. We can't prove that he colluded with the Russians. Hey, let's say he's mentally incompetent and pull the 25th out of our hat.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And well,
wow.
and I heard two words in there, first of all, as you were reading that. Maybe I need a point of clarification. First of all, what the hell is pro tempore? And I know the Constitution pretty good, but some words just...
Pro tempore means an individual acting, you know what? Hold on.
Because you hear it in a lot of, like even, end of the world books.
Yeah.
President pro tempore, and it's like, okay, I'm sure, when I hear words like that used in the media and the news, I'm like, you're just trying to sound really smart. What does it mean? Like, can you put it into English for me? And then the other word that I heard that I thought was funny is the House of Representation.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that we don't realize as American and citizens that we have lost our representation through, other amendments like the 17th Amendment and electing senators and stuff. So it's hard to fall back on the fact that we have representation anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest problem in America that I think we face is, there's a giant disconnect between those people.
The definition of, President pro tempore.
Yes,
that.
That.
A high-ranking senator of the majority party who presides over the U.S. Senate in the absence of the vice president.
Okay.
So, and that right now that's Grassley.
Okay.
Grassley is the pro tempore, the president pro tempore of the Senate. In other words, if the vice president was not available or whatever, they didn't have access to him, then he is like Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House. Well, he's kind of like, he's the guy that they go to, I guess, temporarily fill the vacancy or make the decision.
Okay, so how I look at this, because, they wrote all these things for a reason.
Yeah,
So
absolutely they
if-
did.
If the pro tempore, is a high-ranking senator, Grassley or whatever his name is, and then all of a sudden, Trump's gone and they can't get a hold of Pence, and he's got information that there's something going on, then we need to keep the government rolling.
We do?
Then they would step in, at time of
Shut it down!
Yeah. Click. It's like, I'm all for a shutdown for, I don't know, 5-6 years, but I don't get a paycheck from them. And so, but, then you can kind of see a reason for that language in there.
Yeah.
Because, back before we had cell phones and smartphones and satellite surveillance, if you couldn't get a hold of the vice president and you had, knowledge that the president had been hurt or something, then you just can't stop.
Right. Right,
so
right.
The functions could continue to go on.
Exactly.
But it's not to just, let's try this.
Yeah, you can't
Pull this
just
rabbit
pull
out of our
rabbit.
hat.
Yeah, you can't just, look, you can't just arbitrarily make up laws.
You sure?
Well,
Because they
I don't
do-
know. Maybe they're trying.
because-
They're trying it now, but
Because, they do that and then they bounce it off the Supreme Court and then everyone's like, well, the Supreme Court ruled. Courts do not rule. Kings rule.
that's right.
Courts come up with opinions and they go, in
That's
our opinion,
exactly
the
right.
way you presented Roe v. Wade in this one case, in that little tiny narrow band,
Right.
we think it was right. They didn't just rule that all abortion was legal.
Right, exactly.
Because every case, all the way down to they broke into the wrong house.
Yeah.
It didn't have all houses. It was just
The
that one
judicial
thing.
branch of the government is to interpret law,
Right.
not to write it.
Correct. And it used to be our representatives would go to Washington and they'd go, this is what we need.
Yeah.
And then the senators would be appointed by the state
Right.
and your congressman, the guy you elected,
Right.
not the senator you elected.
Right,
but-
right.
And they go, okay, go write some laws. And that was their job, to go take all of this minutia that the state representatives have hammered out and turn it into law.
That's right.
Not to sit there and blather on for an hour on the news telling me what they think.
Exactly.
Because I don't care what they
Yeah,
think.
I don't care.
You know,
Yeah, I agree, man. It's crazy that we even have, I'm a firm believer that our republic is in great peril, man.
Yeah.
It is in great peril, and you hear me say this all the time on the Underground Talk Show, is that people need to become educated. Our education system went in the dirt years ago.
Well, yeah, and I think we take that to, when people say, you need to get educated. Hello, Mr. President? Hey, yeah,
The president's on.
it's Trump. I told you that letter I sent him got to him. $5 I donated. Yeah, you're listening to the show?
Right on.
Cool, he says we're right on the money.
Right on.
Tell Nancy what? Yeah, everyone knows she's crazy. All right. Well, you have a great day. Enjoy that whatever it is you're doing. Pissing off the Democrats. Yeah. They need it. All right. Thanks for calling. That guy's great.
There you have it. The president taking time out of his busy day to call us two crazy guys.
Yeah, because, he calls Hannity and all them, but, they probably pay for that. This was free. He just wanted to call and thank us because we're right here in an undisclosed location by the biggest, what is that, like an intelligence base?
It's a communications base.
The biggest communication base.
In fact,
well,
Fort
you know what? Maybe
Huachuca-
he called somebody else and it just rang through here by accident. I don't know.
Fort Huachuca is the comm center it used to be at least, the comm center of the world.
Yeah.
So it's a signal corps,
Awesome.
not corpse. Corps,
Not corpse?
not a corpse.
You sure? Because Obama had a Harvard degree or
He
whatever.
called it Marine Corps, right?
Yeah.
Or the Corps of Engineers or
And
whatever.
he was a constitutional lawyer.
Yeah.
But that don't mean nothing either.
Well, you can pay anyone and get a driver's license.
That's true. My son is a rabbi online. No, he's a preacher.
Yeah.
He can marry people.
You can do it, man. If you got money, you can do it.
Well, I like
Thanks to Al Gore for inventing the internet.
I love the internet. I should give more respect to Al. What were we talking about before we were interrupted?
We were talking about the
President of the United States.
education system.
Oh, yes. That people think that just because you say get educated, it means go to school.
Right. That's not what I mean.
And Jefferson and all them guys were self-taught, taught
Yes.
themselves Latin. You know, they went through the school of hard knocks, but they learned and they read.
Yeah, man.
And so you need to be, as an American, an informed citizen, and you need to be ever vigilant. I think that's
Exactly.
kind of what we were talking about. You know, so you can't just sit there and be an armchair quarterback
Right.
when our country is literally gone off.
Going in the garbage can.
Yeah. So we'll take a break, and I should probably call Trump back and apologize for being so rude to him. 'Cause,
I'm sure he understands. He knows we're busy guys doing this. So.
yeah. Well, he's got surveillance.
We'll be back right after this. Good, man.
Yeah, we're nuts.